Welcome to Between Two Psychs, a podcast where two psychologists and board-approved supervisors deep dive into many of the questions and challenges that provisional psychologists and early career therapists face in everyday practice, during training, throughout the internship, and beyond as they progress into working more independently. Your hosts, Isabelle Tombleson and Claire Trevitt, talk about a range of topics, specifically relating to psychologists and therapists who are just starting out. Hi there, it's Claire again with another solo episode. And today I'm going to bring you an open letter to all therapists who have experienced imposter syndrome. So again, I'm guessing that this is something that is going to apply to most of us at some stage in our career as a psychologist or as a therapist. So maybe you've just had a session where you're doubting yourself, or you're maybe just wondering if you're really helping anyone. You're sitting there with a very heavy, sometimes a sinking feeling, just wondering if you're really cut out for this work or whether you're good enough for this work. So I just want to pause for a moment and let you know that you are not alone in this feeling. Imposter syndrome is so common in our field, particularly for early career therapists. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. It doesn't mean that you're not good enough, that you're not skilled enough, that you don't know enough. It really just means that you're human and that you care. So I just want to talk a little bit about what's actually happening. When we feel like we're not enough, the nervous system kicks in. So it's trying to protect us, but it doesn't always get it right. So you might notice a tightening in your chest or a racing heart, or maybe you just find yourself replaying sessions over and over in your mind. Or maybe you're planning sessions over and over. Or maybe you're ruminating on what you don't know over and over. This isn't just overthinking though, it becomes like a stress response. So your brain is literally telling you that you must be failing, that you need to fix this, and that you need to know everything. And from that place, we often pile on more pressure. We try to read more books. We sign up for more courses. We try and learn all of the modalities, which is getting very difficult because there are so many different modalities and different styles of therapy to learn and different types of presentations. Not to mention, if you are a new therapist or a provisional psychologist, all of those other aspects of your learning and training to be a psychologist, just keeping all of your logbooks, trying to prepare for regular supervision sessions. When you're in the early days, supervision can be very regular, and there may be some concern about how you're presenting to your supervisor. We have a number of episodes on supervision. If you haven't listened to those already, I'd encourage you to go back and look at those and listen to those, because we really talk about how supervision can really support your learning, and how many people go into supervision really concerned about how the supervisor is going to perceive them and around judgment. And that can again really impede your learning, because you end up trying to take all of your wins and prove to the supervisor what a great job you're doing, rather than going with all of the things you're struggling with and accessing support with those things. But the more we push ourselves, the harder it becomes to think clearly. And we don't feel grounded and we don't feel connected either to ourselves or to our clients. And learning doesn't happen very well in survival mode. Growth and learning and skill building come when we slow down, often when we feel safe enough to stop and to reflect. So if you're feeling like a fraud, like you're not good enough, like you're not cut out for this work, try and give yourself permission to stop rushing towards perfection, towards getting everything right, towards fixing, towards knowing all of the answers. because that's going to be too much for anyone. So, a few things I wanted to share with you today. And these are things that I've learned through my own experience. Because I've been there and I still go there sometimes, and I have to remind myself to stop and to pause. You don't need to know everything. You won't ever know everything. None of us do. Your job is not to have all of the answers. Again, how could we possibly know all of the answers? Our job is to be present. Our job is to be curious. And our job is to be another human being sitting with someone in distress. Our clients don't come looking for encyclopedias. They come looking for somebody to walk alongside them. So, of course, yes, we do have some knowledge and some skills, and we're trained in modalities to help our clients. We have that alongside our ability to walk with our clients and to stay present with our clients. And we really need both. But we can't use these interventions unless we're present and unless we've built that relationship. You're also allowed to say, that's a really good question. I'm not sure. Let's explore that together. You don't have to have all of the answers. Sometimes we will be able to answer our clients' questions, but sometimes rushing towards the answer isn't necessarily what the client needs, because their experience might be very different from the next person's, and we really want to try and make sense of what is happening for them, rather than assuming that we have all of the answers and that we know what that client needs. We sometimes need to join our clients in that journey of discovery and finding out what it is that they really need, because sometimes it's not that clear when they first come into the room, and taking that time and being curious can be so valuable. And it can also take some of the pressure off us to have to know everything in the moment. So instead of piling on lots of new learning, particularly if you're a new therapist, try and focus on what you do know. So come back to your core skills: reflective listening, tracking emotions, staying with your client, and just remembering that these are very, very powerful interventions in themselves. Rather than trying to learn all of the therapies, because that isn't possible, try and use your existing tools in deeper ways. So growth doesn't mean more necessarily. Sometimes it means a better use of what's already in your hands. So when you go to a 2-day training, come away from that training and try and put that into practice and continue to practice those skills. It's okay to say to a client, I've been on this training course and I've learned something new. Would you like to try something different? Would you like to hear what I've learned? Most clients will be very willing. And if you have been quite clear about the fact that this is something new for you and something that you're just beginning to get to grips with, they'll usually be quite forgiving. They're not judging your performance. They're wanting to know if you can help them. And if they feel seen and they feel heard, and you're offering strategies that can be helpful for them, they're not necessarily going to judge you for how smoothly they're delivered, or how eloquently you've provided the information. Sometimes I've been incredibly clunky when coming out of new trainings, but the skills that I've been implementing have been incredibly helpful, and my clients have really appreciated that. And they've also appreciated my honesty, because I don't have to be good at everything, and we can be trying something together. And there's a lot of value to that. The other thing I would suggest that you do is keep a list of all of the things that you've done well. So every time that you connect with a client, or you have a win during a session, or a client gives you some kind of feedback, write it down. even small wins matter and they add up. And on hard days, you can come back and you can look and you can remember that you're making a difference. And sometimes our clients don't necessarily volunteer feedback, and it can be helpful for us and for the client to check in occasionally and say, look, how are things going? And sometimes we get really helpful feedback that the client's wanting something a little bit different that we can then begin to implement. Or they might give us feedback that we weren't aware of. I'm feeling really seen. This has been really helpful. What you did 3 weeks ago, I've been putting that into place. Ideally, we would be routinely seeking feedback from our clients, but it depends on the type of session that we have had. And sometimes when a client is in the middle of a crisis, we are really just holding that space for them. So we're not necessarily getting that sense of how well we're doing. We're not getting that immediate feedback. But checking in with our clients on a continuous basis can also be quite reassuring sometimes, because they'll usually be very honest with us about what we're doing well. And if they're coming back, then that's usually a pretty good sign. So imposter syndrome doesn't mean that you're failing. It often shows up because you care, because you want to do right by your clients. And that's a good sign that you're on the right path, because we will always be learning and growing. No matter how many years of experience that we have, we'll always be developing those skills and taking in a little bit more, but that doesn't mean to say that we need to rush the process. So if you're at the beginning of your journey, just remember that you need to start somewhere. You can't take in 20 years worth of skills and knowledge and experience in 2 years. That's just not possible. But after your training, after your university education, after your placement, all of the supervision that you have had, you come away with a level of competence that deems you competent to practice independently. And you don't get those competencies ticked off unless you've met those competencies. So just remember that you've done a lot of the hard work and that this is going to be an ongoing journey. So thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next time. Thank you for tuning in today. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to leave us a 5-star rating. It really helps others find the show. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Between Two Psychs for more updates and resources. For more information and to explore everything we offer, head over to our website, betweentwopsychs.com.au. We appreciate your support, and we'll see you next time.